Mr. Hines.
Present.
Ms. Jiggets.
Present.
Mr. Kelly. Ms. Link.
Here.
Ms. Revel.
Present.
Mr. Scott. So we have a quorum on EDA. And PPIC, Mr. Barron.
Here.
Mr. Bento.
Here.
Mr. Peterman. Mr. Reineberg. Mr. Toops.
Here.
Mr. Wallace.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum all the way around. And I'll take this if you like. Certainly, we wanted to have the boards come together. I think we've discussed this. Twice a year, we like to have the boards sit down and understand what each one does. I think we all have a good grasp of what each one does, and the opportunities that they have. But certainly, there are opportunities for collaboration. There are certainly opportunities to sit down and discuss various things, whether it's the AWI site, whether it's the BASF site, whether it's something on High Street, whether it's something on the waterfront. There's certainly an opportunity for groups to work together. What we are seeing certainly in economic development is that partnerships are what are making things happen nowadays. Certainly we partner with City of Norfolk, with HREDA, the state. So we thought it'd be fitting for you all to meet. I think this is the first time this year, and talk about, just have a general discussion about some things you all want to see, things you'd like to do, maybe separately and apart, and then sometimes together. But I will just leave it open and open the floor up.
Well, I think one of the first things that was pointed out by Dr. Patton, if you will, is that we need to inform each other of things. And the BASF site, I think, is important to the whole city of Portsmouth and the things that we do there, as well as this Atlantic Woods site. I keep referring to it the old days, but that site that we just talked about, that's a Superfund site. So I think it's probably would surprise you guys, that some of the things we don't know about what you're doing. So I think this is a great opportunity to share in anything we can. That nature. And so that's kind of where the PPIC is. You kind of heard what our projects are right now. And one of the other things that we've discussed, and we'll talk to the port about all the time, is what's going to happen to the PIT, where are we going with that, and what that's going to be used for in the future. And it's being utilized now. I know when you go over the bridge, you see the container ships there and things like that. So we just want to stay up to speed on what's happening on the waterfront. And then the other project that we've really want to take on and look at is all the ancillary businesses that are building up around the port. We want to see how many of those and how well we can bring those to Portsmouth. So that's kind of in a nutshell, what the PPIC is looking at right now.
In terms of the EDA, one of the new things that's happened effective July 1st is that we've opened up our grants programs to the whole city. Prior to this, they were limited to particular areas of the city, and we think that's a wonderful thing because we've never to this point expended all the funds that we had set aside for these grant programs. So this is an opportunity to make these grants available to more businesses throughout the city and to utilize the funds that we've set apart. Maybe they'll go away very quickly in the year, but that's a good problem to have. So,
as kind of the outgoing chair, I'm going to take a minute to brag a little bit about what we've done in the last year. We had 8 sites and market, and we've got something in some phase of development on all 8 sites. So, we're pretty exciting news will probably be coming out in the next month or so on some of these really great ventures that Robert and his teams put together. So we're, from this commissioner standpoint, I think we now just need to just kind of switch gears to market the remaining sites, plus also to look for new sites to develop. But I think there's a lot of positive momentum we've got going on now here with in regards to the EDA in terms of moving some properties. And I think it's very exciting. So the changes that our chairwoman has just mentioned with the local incentives program, now that we can tie in there. But I do think there's some synergy, as you spoke to about the BASF site, as that is a pretty important piece of property there. I think it would be really a good opportunity that you do some things, we do some things, and we get a site that is just ready for development. So I would love to find out maybe that's something staff can look at and see what logically fits in terms of some sort of master plan to put together that site for development.
Certainly.
And that's a total of how many acres, Mr. Moore?
It's about 44 acres. Potentially, you could have up to 51, 52 acres. The current owner holds some additional property adjacent to that, so there may be some opportunity if there was some acquisition to go up to 52 acres.
I'm going to say sites that size here in Portsmouth don't grow on trees.
Right.
That's the only one. That's the only one.
Right.
So,
Well, that was a good reason for that resolution, because as we looked at that and the ownership of that property, I mean, that encompasses a huge corner there, and it's very important. And there's rail access there. There's all that has a lot of potential. So I think in the past we looked at businesses that would be the high employee type businesses. We looked at some manufacturing type things, and at one point there was a company that was willing to come in with about 250 employees that they would need to do what they were manufacturing there. So we need to look at that real closely. And Mr. Moore, are we correct that it had a phase 1 and a phase 2, or
yes,
just a
it's
phase?
had a phase 1 and a phase 2.
Right.
It has been remediated. There are some points of remediation that have to be done, i.e. you have to cap off some of the ponds that are there. But from a standpoint of a bill of health, it's about as clean as it can be.
Yeah, I just wanted them to know that, because that's important. There's very little.
That was stated. Sorry.
Just wanted to bring that point out, because that's a huge stumbling block, and we knew that had been done. So.
Yes. With what was discussed recently with the site readiness positions and where we should be, the one site that was brought up as, for all intents and purposes, ready to go was the BASF site. And again, we'll just use that as an example. That's something that we need to make sure we have in our toolbox are sites that are ready to go. The average time frame from decision to shovel in the ground is about 5 months. That's how long it took Amazon to go to Chesterfield and make that decision. And I can tell you from an economic development standpoint, we have been in the running, but we have not gotten to the finish line for projects because we have not had the sites ready. Or there were some that were more prepared and ready to go than ours. Certainly, we like to hang our hat on the fact that we are even in the running. I think we've done a great job of getting to that point and being, available for prospects. But there are certain things we can do to go the extra mile and the extra step to make sure we get to the next phase of development of these sites.
Yeah, the question that I would have then, if I can follow up, Madam Chair, is on the tier. Are we tiered this site yet in terms of the tiers we spoke about?
From our standpoint, that is a tier 1 site. We are in the process of finalizing for our website the tiering of our properties. That will be the number 1 site that we have there as far as what we have in the pipeline ready to go. This road improvement would make it a tier plus, if that makes any sense. Because if you look at the site from an access standpoint, there are some challenges. And again, that's what we're looking at from a tiering system is if we can tier the properties and we can say where there may be challenges, identify those challenges and do our best or attempt to fix those challenges or correct those, then that puts us in a better position. That's what we have done on the 8 sites that you all have. We've understood where the challenges were, that are best to overcome those, and we have found developers that are willing to overcome those challenges. So that is staff's task going forward. That is our push, and we are excited about the opportunity. So,
just to shift gears a little bit, I did want to know from the body if there was any possibility of the boards actually meeting with the Port Authority Board. Has that ever been done, Vice Mayor? Is it within the realm of possibility, or?
I doubt it, because that is a state
No, I
appointed board.
understand
You're welcome. The meetings are open to the public, and you're welcome to attend.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that would be above our pay grade, so to speak.
Okay.
They have their own schedule, whatever times a year, and
Yeah.
we can go to them, but they don't
Right.
come to municipalities to meet.
Yeah.
They're a gubernatorial appointment, so they're, it's completely different.
Thank you so much.
But we do, as Ms. Jiggets knows, we, at each of our meetings, we have
Right, the
representatives from the
liaison, yeah,
port that
that's
usually
right.
reports out as we, not our last meeting, but we had Mr. Reinhardt to make a presentation, which all of the presentations that are made are on our Channel 48, so. And his update was an update of 6 months of what's going on at the port.
And if I can, staff understands the importance of the port, and we are working diligently with the port. Excuse me. As a matter of fact, staff just they made a business visit to the port as a staff, the entire staff, so that we all understand the access and availability that the port provides. And I, as the director, am looking to travel with the port as well on some of their missions, because again, we have some synergy with regards to port access and what we both can provide. So we understand the importance of the port. We understand the importance of the ancillary businesses that will be coming. Certainly, Port Rail Crane, which was I don't want to steal Dr. Patton's thunder, but Port Rail Crane is a company that just this past summer, just last year, about a year ago, we celebrated them going from 25 to almost 75 employees. Mr. Dan Stevens was just in our offices just last week discussing the need for more employees, which ties in well with our Hire Portsmouth initiative. So we are really hitting the ground running. Portsmouth, I think, right now is in a realm that it hasn't been in a long time. And we're just trying to maintain the ship, if you will, no pun intended, and just keep moving forward. That's where we are.
Well, if there's an opportunity for maybe the EDA commissioners to go on that tour,
We certainly can.
I think that would be very beneficial
Certainly.
for us.
Certainly.
If we could get the EDA and the PPIC a time frame that the economic development will work with the port and have a tour,
Yes.
which they've never had.
Absolutely.
And
Certainly.
know nothing about it, really.
And back, Mr. Moore, back to the BASF site for 1 second. 2 questions, and I think I know the answers. I just want to confirm. With it being in private hands, it sounds like it's a very cooperative relationship, so it's being marketed hand in hand.
Yes.
So that's not creating any issues. It's essentially treated as if it's a public site, so that's not an issue.
We are working with, they have a broker representing the site. So when you have a broker, normally you're trying to sell or you're trying to lease. But we do have a willing seller. And anytime that there is a prospect, we make sure that we speak with the broker and have the broker on site ready to go. So we are marketing this hand in hand.
And the water access is actually on the western branch, and what's the depth of the access?
That is again one of those challenges that we talked about. The site is not very deep. You could walk out into the water if you wanted to. After a certain point, you're going to fall in. But it's not very deep at all. There is the opportunity to put a pier because there's a finger of the property, because the property line actually extends out into the water. So there is this finger, if you will, that goes out. We have spoken to the necessary government bodies to put the time frame on if someone were to put a pier or access to a pier there, that's about a year approval, with everything going great. So you can get to the deep water. It just won't be readily available right adjacent to the site. But you could have access to
That would be the southern branch side, or that would be over to the western branch side?
That would be on the western branch side.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
right, exactly.
Okay.
The approach there is about 12 feet. Found a couple holes that were almost 14.
Right.
Okay.
But so it's pretty shallow until you get out there. But I'm not sure that site's going to be a deep water port type
It's
site.
not. It's not. I would assume that from an economic development standpoint, that's more of a distribution,
Okay.
or manufacturing and distribution combination type of site. We have had interest before from everything from manufacturing to freezer and cold storage. So whatever it will be port related. I can guarantee you that.
Certainly has great access to both VIG and
Right.
VIG is one exit away. It's
all of
served by
them.
Commonwealth Rail.
Sure.
So, again, taking all that into account, that is going back to Commissioner Hines' question. It is a Tier 1 site in our standpoint, very important to us. And so we will make sure that, as it's developed, we are involved and our partnerships are readily available.
Thank you.
I was going to say, maybe a good synergy position for us would be, since they deal in ports and we deal in economic development, if we did any sort of research as to which businesses we should target that would provide ancillary services to the port. Have we done any sort of market study or analysis of what we should go after with what the port is now growing and their needs are? Port rail kind of grew because of that. Do we already have these businesses here in Portsmouth that just need a little shot in the arm to grow, or do we need to maybe become more aggressive in identifying the type of needs that they're needing because of their growth? You understand what my question is?
So-
something we can support in that.
Well, what we've done is I'll answer the study question first. What we've done is, as a staff, we've looked at our strategic plan. Our Access Portsmouth strategic plan points out 6 specific target industries, target sectors. The number 1 target sector is maritime and logistics, and that would serve those ancillary businesses that are port related, distribution related, warehouse related when it comes to the port. Next in line would be small businesses. Certainly, we have a number of small businesses. A number of individuals around this table have small businesses, or what would be considered small businesses. Third is advanced manufacturing. Again, speaking to what Chairman Bento spoke of earlier, advanced manufacturing and the distribution of those widgets and parts and those manufactured items is very important to us. Fourth would be information technology, modeling, and simulation. Certainly, we've seen a tremendous amount of growth with the growth of companies like Simis, XP Logistics, and so forth out at the 664 corridor. Then we do have retail, but it's really a specialty retail, specialty and destination retail. And then finally, we have information services. That's kind of a catch-all for everything from data centers, which, in talking to Mr. Hines, when we had the Timmons presentation, there's an opportunity for us to maybe have a site certified as a certified data center site. So we have taken it upon ourselves as part of our strategic plan to identify those 6. Now, that being said, we are also working with the port, and in their capacity, certainly they have groups and target members and industries that they see. So as we work hand in hand, there should be some overlap, and has been overlap. Everything from Port Rail Crane to Kalmar, which just expanded into 19,000 square feet over on Frederick Boulevard. So we're seeing those overlaps, and again, with us traveling together and marketing the city of Portsmouth, and more specifically the ports of Virginia, the 2 that are here in Portsmouth, there should be a lot of synergy there.
Sure. And those 6 items that you, I believe you actually presented those to us at the EDA session, so it was a good reminder. I guess my question is, in that first area, have we done any sort of further drilling down of that particular item and had good discussion with what the actual port needs growth-wise? They're growing, and I think there's going to be it's going to be very important for us to have that open dialogue, both bodies, with the port to say, this is what we see in the next 3 years, to maybe provide us kind of a target of what we should be looking to bring in terms of businesses.
To your point, Anthony, we have a company that's here that's part of a Memphis company. It's called Cornerstone Systems. We're a 3PL. We're a non-asset-based company. So we provide the services without actually having the assets. And it's a business that continues to grow, and it's probably one of the stronger parts of transportation right now, whether it's a 3PL, 4PL business. But the beauty of it is it doesn't require a lot of land, it doesn't require the assets. You do the arrangements and make the movement. So we have 21 people here right now. We're looking to be hiring soon again. But that business for us, we started in '97 as a company, and we're at, again, based out of Memphis, but we're at right at $287 million right now in transportation spend. So that's one of those kind of businesses, and I've offered before with the economic group to come in and visit with us, to look at what we're doing. But if you got office space in that's a way of being able to start providing some of those services that you may not be thinking about. Customs house brokerage, international freight forwarders, all that kind of business is out there right now. And a lot of it, unfortunately, is domiciled over in the Norfolk area, or it's over in the Virginia Beach area. But there's no reason at all why it shouldn't be over here.
Sure.
To make a quick remark to Mr. Hines, and that's a great question, and you bring up a terrific point. It's something we've identified, and in fact, we have the good fortune of having a summer intern at the port. We do have an internship program, and our interns are getting to the end of their time with us. But for economic development this year, the task or the project we assigned our intern was to your question. All of these other contractors and industries are coming in to support the tremendous growth that's happening at Virginia National Gateway in Portsmouth. How can we capitalize on those who aren't located here in the city of Portsmouth? And so, in fact, we are drilling down, because we know our vendors, and drilling down on their locations and finding the right contacts to begin that dialogue, because it is a real great opportunity to locate some of those ancillary businesses right here. So we will be working directly with Robert and the economic development staff and going out to find those and locate them, because we have some great examples and some great success with PCS and Calmar recently. And as many businesses they kind of like, that's great. Competition's doing it. They're doing something right, and it's happening here in Portsmouth. So, yeah.
Just to follow up, I know you've had I'm sorry, just to follow up on that, you said that's going to be a report that comes from at the end of this process?
Well, I say it's data I think there's some, it's data we are capturing internally.
Sure.
But as, we work very closely with the city, we're going to be definitely working collaboratively for those opportunities. I have not seen the finished product yet, so I don't want to go into great depth and oversell it, but I know our intern Gavin's been working diligently over the past 10 weeks on this.
I would love to hear a report back, whether it be now, 6 months from now,
Okay.
whatever the
Yes,
report
sir.
is. I
Yes,
think
sir.
that would be really pertinent for both
Sure.
bodies to hear.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes,
I
sir.
appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Anyone
Your
else?
city manager.
One of the things I wanted to share, as Mr. Moore mentioned, we have in this city Dan Stevens, who's the only person or company in the world, and I underscore the world, that has the knowledge, ability, and team to assemble the cranes that are at our port, the automated cranes. He has assembled 30, and there are another 60 that he's going to assemble. We are meeting with Mr. Stevens, which I've been working with him now for 2 years, because the port needs people who can do the work. And Mr. Stevens envisions, and Finland, where the parts of the cranes are coming from, are very interested in setting up an academy that we can teach local students and local people megatronics and things of which they can get the jobs of which the port's looking for. What we need is, as he said, all I need is somebody who understands math and has a little science. So from the meeting we had 2 weeks ago, and we have another meeting come up, I have assured him that we are going to start the school that he has been talking about. And we're going to start it on Saturdays and Sundays, which he has small groups of people coming in right now studying, and these are willing partners to come in, people who want to know. And because they don't teach megatronics in Portsmouth, they teach it at the campus in Chesapeake. Mr. Stevens is willing to have his site. He's got a conference room and everything to be where it's teaching. It is unacceptable for us to go into the future without making sure students who are coming out of high school or adults who want to change their careers and can get into areas starting at 60,000 and no limit to where you would go, because this is such a unique and futuristic area, they should be Portsmouth citizens. And that's what we're working toward, and that's what we are going to do. And I said to him, if I have to teach on Sunday as a volunteer, because he said to me, to us, is that I can do the teaching of that, but I need somebody who can teach soft skills. How to speak, how to shake hands, how to have conversations. And that's what's missing. So if you're going for an interview, you have got to know how to sell yourself in order, even if you have the skills, for the port to hire you. So we are working, Hire Portsmouth, we're really serious about it, and we'll be unveiling more things that we're doing since July 1 has started.
Yes.
We're in our 17th day.
Yes.
I would first, if I could, Madam Chair, I would like to also volunteer along with you
Very
if that goes down that road.
Very good.
But I would like to also, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this is also, I think, an excellent opportunity for the two boards to work with in terms of Mr. Moore's vision that he spoke of regarding the Hire Portsmouth at our last retreat. But I would be remiss in not saying this as someone who is in the education field, that we should make sure that the person that is saying we need math and science, that this person or this group, Port Royal Crane, which has a fantastic operation, I attended their ribbon cutting and everything, they're a shining star in Portsmouth. But we should put them with our educational leadership, with the school board, and with the school superintendent to make sure we identify the certain level of skill set in respect of math and science. I think that there's definitely a hunger for creating a workforce there. So I think that, however way we can help in that aspect, whether, I know you talked about that there was going to be people sitting at the table to kind of make that happen. Maybe that's, whether we provide a person or a subcommittee or something of that nature to help out, I think it would be very important for us to identify and help identify the skill sets that are needed. So we are creating our own workforce.
Yes.
That's
It's very, very important.
That's important.
We are at the point from a Hire Portsmouth standpoint. I don't want to give away everything just yet, but we are working diligently. We have a meeting coming up soon, kind of a kickoff roundtable to discuss. Miss Ashley Henley will be heading that up as we go forward. But we are very determined to establish and create the best workforce for our Portsmouth citizens and of our Portsmouth citizens. You will hear me say, and I've taken this from a colleague several times, we never want to create a job we cannot fill with a Portsmouth resident, okay? Our job as economic development is not just to expand the tax base, but it is also to provide a better quality of life. And part of quality of life is not just shopping at stores and so on and so forth. It is also making sure that there are opportunities for individuals, our citizens, to have, to be able to afford a better quality of life in those items. So we are determined. We are looking at not only the unemployed, but the underemployed. We are also looking at everyone from not just in high school, not just individuals that want to change their careers, but we're going all the way to 3rd, 4th, 5th grade to make sure that everyone understands. So I say that because we are definitely looking to be in front of the schools, have the schools be a part of this. Again, we just met a few weeks ago and talked about how we can make that happen. Certainly there are protocols and levels that you need to go through to include certain groups, and we are working through those. But this will be a robust group. We envision this being something that will carry us into the future, and again, should match up very well with the 6 target industries and sectors that we have. So we certainly welcome the input and support of both bodies, and we just, as we formalize these meetings, we will certainly make you aware so that you can send a representative to the group, to the meeting.
Very good.
Because I'll tell you, skilled tradesmen are really hard to come by now these days, that's for certain. It really is. And a little known thing that most people have maybe not known about, but, the Portsmouth Schools in conjunction with Tidewater Community College Portsmouth, this graduated 25 welders. So, there's work being done, but I think now we need to maybe target that work to where we're wanting to go. So having a vision and working our vision. So thank you.
Any other comments? Yes, Ms.
Well,
Mason.
I actually have a question, and I certainly understand everybody's perspective of trying to support the needs of the port, and certainly that should be our number one priority. However, do we have an idea of what they're actually receiving? What is the products coming in? What can we do to serve their customers as well as the port itself? And I think that's probably an area, to me, when you look at, is there some assembly, just minor assembly needing to go on in a warehouse before something goes out to a distribution center? Where are the distribution centers? Where can we put one here? So looking at their customers, not just their vendor needs, but their customer base and seeing what those people may want. Do we even look at that, or?
So I don't want to speak for Mr. Gullickson, but I believe that is part of the data that's being captured as far as the needs, not only, again, of the port, but again, those individuals that access and service the port. So yes, those that manufacturing piece, again, that's why we have on our target industries advanced manufacturing and manufacturing, because we understand that there is a need. Why it's not here in Portsmouth, I couldn't tell you, but we are doing our best to make sure we change that. So yes, we are looking at that as part of the data that's being collected, but not just, again, from a port standpoint, just overall. There are items that need to be put together. We just had a company move from Norfolk to Portsmouth, and they fabricate and assemble cabinets. That sounds basic, but being a recent mover, it's not. So I can tell you it's not hanging a cabinet, putting a cabinet together. Yeah, save that for the professionals. But those individuals, just for an example, they're right here in Portsmouth, purchased a building, $500,000, employing about 25 people. They need individuals. Do they utilize the port? Unfortunately, no, because they send everything out from their distribution center via the trucks and so forth. But again, they're in Portsmouth because of the access. Now we need to make sure they have the workforce to allow them to expand. So certainly we recognize exactly what you are saying and those needs as well.
Okay. Thank you.
And a compliment to Mr. Moore is one of the things he and his staff have been doing is aggressively identifying sites in that, so that Portsmouth is in the equation as things are being looked at. And I mean, I applaud you and your staff that, I see the difference, and I see that we're aggressive, and that's part of changing how Portsmouth is perceived. And that's something we all want.
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
May I ask, Mr. What percentage of the containers that come into the port are exiting our area?
Well, I can break it down such as this, and that of the 100% of containers we receive are export-import.
That's right.
A third of them are going to end up mostly on the rail, and then a certain percentage is going to end up on the barge. But the greatest percentage is going to end up on the truck, on the back of a truck, leaving our gates and going to a local facility here in the market. And
You may have noticed that, yes.
But I can tell you, here in Portsmouth, and I think there's a wonderful example of partnering with Interchange. And the Interchange Group is a very sophisticated company. Not only do they build a wonderful building here, but they also they operate a 3PL, third-party logistics company, similar to what Guy was talking about. But this is asset-based, and they actually are doing some of that, just what you described. Some of the taking contents out of containers, doing some minor fabrication, alteration, and then sending it out. And so I think that's the beauty of what's going on today is one, identifying the sites. So when those opportunities like an interchange comes along, we can facilitate that right here in our host community of Portsmouth. So yeah, it's definitely something we're very in tune and intentional in trying to attract here to the city.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the interchange building is like completely full now, correct?
It has 38,000 square feet still available.
Oh.
One of the contracts that they had from a time standpoint,
Speed to market.
speed to market fell through, and another building was readily available. So we have 38,000 square feet available in that space. But I can tell you that there are several interested parties and contracts have been floated, so I don't anticipate that staying long. I can tell you from a data standpoint, anything at 40,000 square feet and over does not last long on the market. You probably got about 45 days of it being on the market in Portsmouth, especially if it's for sale. We will see and we'll be able to report. These are some of the things that we will report when it gets to the end of the year so that we can have some metrics to go on for next year. We are not looking at, to again take from Dr. Patton, we are not looking at 1, 2, and 3 years out. We want to go 5, 10 years out. If we can forecast where we should be, and I can tell you third-party logistics and 4PLs, that's going to be the future for Portsmouth when it comes to industrial space availability, because you don't have to necessarily have the land, but if you do, there's an opportunity there. So we will have that data.
4PL?
So I'll let the expert explain.
4PL doesn't get it directly involved in the movement of it, and it outsources everything out more so. 3PLs actually get involved in it more so. So they're actually one step removed from the actual getting involved with it. But they're contracting. They're actually
Contract everything.
Yeah, huh?
They contract everything.
They contract it all.
Like the general contractor, so to speak.
Well, yeah, even further removed.
out than
Even
that.
further
Whereas
removed.
your
Yeah.
3PLs, normally I'll use the cabinets, for example. The 3PL may send, the cabinets may come in, there may be some changes into the cabinets from a standpoint of the order and how they're put together, and then send out. So again, more asset-based. There's a touching of that asset, whereas the 4PL, it's more of a contractor situation.
Well, they're more involved in the in actual processes like the bill paying and making sure that they're checking out that everything is correct on the pricing and everything else. They submit the bids out to all kinds of different people to participate in. They give that information over to the customer. The customer can make a decision on how those things work.
Dr. Patton.
One of the things that Mr. Moore just mentioned it, that I have challenged the department heads with, is that if your work that you are doing is just for today, then you're going to make very little impact on tomorrow. And I give them the example that 100 years ago, when whomever was here and decided to buy all the lakes in Suffolk, and it's now that the city brings in the millions of dollars from a vision 100 years ago when W.E. Bates was the city manager in 1918. He came in 1917. So I say to my team is that what we're doing today should position this city that 100 years from now they can see the work that we did to make this truly the port city of the world. And we have the opportunity to do that. That port is not going to go anywhere. That port's going to be there 200 years from now, just like the naval shipyard has been there 250 years. So our work needs to be looking ahead. If I'm just here to say, oh, I'm just here, I've got 317 days and I'm leaving, so then my time has been worthless. You leave legacies that when people can look back and say, boy, 50 years ago, when the Economic Development Department in Portsmouth did X, Y, and Z, look at the benefits that this city is receiving from your work as visionary and being on this board. And that's what we want to do, and that's what they are working toward.
True leaders look around the corner, don't they?
Yeah.
Okay. Are we good with our joint meeting? Does anyone else have any comments for the good of the group?
Good discussion.
Yeah, enjoyed it.
Look forward to working together.
Okay, I think we'll take a short 5-minute break, and then the EDA will reconvene for our meeting. And you're welcome to stay, but you're not required to.
This is a good.
Do have donuts, coffee, water. Donuts.
The shots were
That was-
Where's our mimosas at?
Yeah.